How's it going? YouTube DIY man Glen here and his little DIY channel. Yes, so this is that jewellery box I'm putting together for my daughter. Yeah. I just basically want to show you how to get depth and show depth when you haven't really got a lot of deep carving work. If you'll note, I've put a full flower in the front here, making that the foreground. Okay, these other two flowers have got petals that come in underneath this one, and that's one way of showing depth when you haven't really got a deep carving. None of that work would be any more than a millimetre deep, or a quarter of a half of a 3/4 of a thousandth of an inch. I don't know inches, so I wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's about a millimetre deep. And here we go, we've got three more. Okay, same principle. Foreground, one quite large flower there, tucked underneath it, and a tiny and smaller flower tucked underneath that again, and this one's smaller again, so it makes it look like a bunch of flowers tucked in behind the foreground. Sweet. On that MDF flower, wherever it is, I cut that out the other day in 10 minutes. That was a big chip. That was a medium chip. And sort of this was a small chip, yeah? Okay. On this work, to bear with me, I'll cut that little circle in first, whatever the circle thing on the flower is called, the round bit. Maybe there's a plant expert out there watching my video can post a comment on what that circle's called in a flower. Cut my little lines in first, my petal detail in first. The reason I do that is so I'm not constricted by the border of the petal. Nice light hammer, nice light deliberate taps. Everything's sort of calculated and thought after. Now, got some grain resistance there which I'll go into, so I just flip my work around. Now that's a big chip on that sort of work. Okay, no chips bigger than that. Oh, this petal here is the one that'll tuck in under there. So it's just basically 3 or 4 lines in there. 1, 2. Bang. Now, the MDF hasn't got any grain, so I didn't have to worry about this. This is proper timber, it's coldy. It's got grain, and grain is where tubes run up here. Okay, little tubes that take moisture and nutrients from the ground and the roots of the tree and feed the leaves and feed the tree with nutrients and moisture. At the end grain, you would have heard it being called, they're little tubes, like straws. The little dots are little straws. Have a look on some bits of wood at some stage. Relatively safe to cut along the grain, or with the grain it's called, through here. But as soon as I start cutting this side, I'm cutting those tubes this way, which is cannot be a good thing. You can get tear out and all sorts of crap like that from it. So I have to really watch when I'm cutting against the grain or across the grain. So really simple, easy taps, or I'll get tear out. Alright. Forgot to do my 3 lines first. And now I go very carefully because I'm going across the grain. Bada boom. This pedal on this side's easy because I'm going with the grain. Those tubes that run up and down. Across the grain, with the grain. Alright. Cutting across the grain like that is where it's gonna point out whether your chisels are sharp enough or not. A sharp chisel will cut across the grain really well. A blunt chisel will tear it. Please note too, my wrist doesn't move very much. It's not doing this. It's quite locked, quite steady. Occasionally you'll see it twist like that, but you won't see it moving all over the place, or the plane won't change. I'm always at the constant angle. My forearm's locked and my shoulder's locked. Alright, and if I want to move, I move or I move the work. Around the corner I'm moving, not my arm. Alright. So, I've created a V-cut in that piece of wood. All the material on this side of the V-cut needs to be removed to give it depth. Then you leave that there, that side of the V-cut, that's the stop cut side. So now I'm going to be removing all that timber. So I get my little chisel and I work on removing that timber. Yeah, so effectively I've taken the V-cut and I've removed that timber across there. Another way to capture depth where there isn't any depth, where your carving's not that deep, is to cut the petals as well and shape them up. Sometimes sometimes physically you won't see what's happened and you won't see that these leaves are cut, but subconsciously your head sort of goes, hey, that looks like a real flower. And it's just because of minor details like this that I'm going in. Now, yet again, I'm cutting across the grain here, so I've got to be careful with this chisel. Yep, I think that's about it. Enough waffling on about carving again. Like, subscribe, pass it on. It'll look quite spiffy, I think, in the end. Gravity. That one. Gravity. That one. Not really working out. Lid. Awesome. Yeah. I found out that I'm all good at making, this is a dovetail marking gauge for marking dovetails. So it sets you at the right angle, and then you just have to flip it around to get the other angle of a dovetail. I found out I can make the jig all good. Trying to make the dovetails, nah. No good at hand cut dovetails, I'm afraid, because all this was going to be dovetailed up, but I went with the good old easy 45. Because I'm crap at dovetailing at the moment, but I'll practice and I'll get there. Yeah, this is quite a good search. Search up handheld gut dovetail jig. It's quite easy. 1 in 7 rake or something. Alright, have a good one. See you next time.